Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today with us, we have Avantika Sinha. And this is the second episode where we're discussing leadership mindsets. So we've already covered a few mindsets in the first episode. If you haven't heard that, please go make sure you listen to that. Here, we're going to continue with the remaining mindsets. So enjoy. Very often, ownership and victim mentality are, spoken about together.
Yeah.
Do you think you can become a leader with a victim mentality?
I think so. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that, you've got to tell ownership stories to yourself, whether you're telling helpless victim, being a victim to other people or not. That's a moral decision. That's something that you decide. And sometimes it does work, right? So you see people getting promoted if your boss buys your helpless stories, victim stories, and say, oh, okay, you get promoted, you get, rich, you get votes based on victim stories, right? So, you have it all everywhere, but the one
it's a powerful narrative, right?
Because you get a lot of payoffs from telling that story. Because when you're a victim, then you get a lot of sympathy.
And attention.
Yeah. And you get to be comfortable. You get to be right. So you get a lot of payoffs, right? But the one thing it doesn't get you, if you're telling the victim story to yourself, is the life that you want to create, the results that you want, the relationships that you want. You're not going to get that if you're feeling like there's nothing I can do. Then there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, because you're always going to be then.
Ashdin, sorry to jump in. Avantika, there is a disturbance from your mic line. I mean, the earphone you have connected, the wire disturbance. Whenever the movement is happening in that, the noise is getting. So make sure you avoid the. Actually, I'm not able to hear you. Sorry.
I'll be still. Is this better?
Yeah, this is better. Just try not to touch the earphone or something bad.
I will try.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Where were we?
Sorry.
Ownership, and then we had gone to that part where, is there anything that we are missing out on?
We said,
in fact, I want to, okay, so let me come back to what I actually had in mind before the discussion. So I was like, so Avantika, you said this is one of your favorite aspects of the mindset of a leader. Why is this such a favorite one for you?
Because it changed my life.
Okay.
And the reason it changed my life was because when I really understood this concept, I realized that anytime I was feeling negative emotions on a consistent basis, I was getting certain payoffs, right? So, for example, when I got married, my husband used to work with Hindustan Unilever. He was a sales manager, and he used to work in Madhya Pradesh. And I had come from Delhi to Bombay for the first time. I'd been like away from my family, etc. And he used to travel like 20 days a month. And even when he would come back, he would be tired and exhausted, and he would want to rest on the weekends. And I would say, hey, you know what, let's go out, let's do this, let's do that. And he'd be like, oh, I'm tired, let's go tomorrow, etc. And I was like, getting really frustrated. I was like, why? He's like really unhappy. Like, if he didn't want to spend time with me, why did he get married, right? And so I was feeling all those negative emotions, and I was blaming him. So, but then I realized that I was getting a lot of payoffs. There was some subconscious benefits that I was getting, which is, I was getting a lot of sympathy. So everybody around me was, oh, poor girl, she's come alone. You should spend time with her, beta. You should like make sure you take care of her, etc. So I got a lot of sympathy. I got to blame him. So then I didn't need to do anything, right? So I got to be right about my beliefs about what a husband should do and what a wife should do. I got to keep my image of being a good wife. He's the bad husband. I'm the good wife, right? So I got a whole lot of benefits, subconscious benefits. But the thing is that the thing that I wasn't creating was the relationship that I wanted with him, right? Which is, of trust and love and honesty and all of that, right? Companionship. I wasn't creating that because every time I would blame him, whether verbally, non-verbally, consciously or not, it was getting through to him, and he was feeling attacked and he was feeling defensive. And so even when there was time and he wasn't feeling tired, it wasn't a pleasant experience. I wasn't creating that for him. And so what I wasn't willing to do at that time were, when you take ownership, there are certain prices you pay, right? You do need to get out of your comfort zone. You do need to have difficult conversations if they're required. You've got to be willing to shed the image. You've got to basically, be okay with giving away the benefits you're getting by being a victim, right? And so for me, that changed my life, because now I know that anytime I'm feeling any of the negative emotions, I'm getting the payoffs, the benefits, and I'm not willing to pay certain prices, but that means that I'm not creating the life that I want. And so I changed my relationship with my husband. I changed my relationship with my mother-in-law. I changed my career. I was a lawyer. I changed that. I changed a lot. I changed the way I was relating to myself. So it was hugely empowering, because now it was like, it's in my hands. I always have a choice. If nothing else, if I don't have a choice of action, and sometimes I may not, because if the event has happened in the past, I always have a choice of the narrative. I always have the choice of how I'm feeling, of my own experience. So for me, yeah, it was hugely life-changing.
Was there like a penny drop moment when you realized this?
Yes, I did a similar program where I learned this, but it wasn't a moment more than, I did it for a few years to practice it and change things over a period of time. But definitely just the realization that, okay, I always have a choice, and I'm doing this because I'm getting some benefits and not because it's who I am. It's who he is. It's really my beliefs and my mindset. That definitely was a big learning.
And do you ever see yourself slipping back to that? Because it's interesting, right? Going back towards where you were and then recognizing, oh, wait, this is again becoming victim. Let me get ownership back into it.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And I'm going in the cab and I'm in the traffic. I'm like, oh, why is this traffic, right? So it happens all the time, but I'm able to catch myself a lot more now, and it doesn't stay. So I think I've trained my brain enough now to say, okay, if I'm feeling it consistently, that means I've got to do something different.
And I love your taxi example, because we only think that, victim mentality is for big things in our life, but actually sneaks into every aspect of it, right? We just keep thinking, oh, if only. And then, absolutely. So I love the taxi example. Okay, so we've got ownership and understanding. How do you take ownership of it? How do you not blame others, not blame yourself, but say, I am in control of what I can choose to do and change the way that my life is. And that mindset is so important for us to create. Fantastic. Yeah. What comes after ownership?
There's win-win.
Win-win. Okay.
So win-win, everybody knows it, right? Everybody knows the concept, but nobody tells you that this is a win-win conversation. Go have it. Find a win-win solution. And so what happens is that we forget, and again, the fears show up. So when I'm speaking to somebody who seems to have different priorities than me, different objectives than me, then my survival instinct comes in and like, if I give him everything, then I lose, they win, and so that doesn't work. So I'd rather win and they lose. And so we operate with that mindset. But win-win is really saying that people will only give me what I want and I give them what they want, right? But in order to figure out what they want, I've got to be willing to have deeper conversations, conversations that are not apparent on the surface, conversations that might be difficult to have initially. But, and I would say there's always a win-win solution, right? There's always a win-win.
How do you get to that win-win? So one is difficult conversations, but is it a mindset that you're constantly looking for win-wins everywhere? How do you make it something that becomes routine?
Yeah, it's absolutely a mindset. It's either win-win or no deal. It's that mindset, right? It's not that win-lose. If it's a win-lose or lose-win, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long term, right? And so how am I going to create that relationship with the person such that I'm willing to give him what he wants, he's willing to give me what I want, and really figuring out what we want. And sometimes what happens is that we get stuck on the position, which is a surface level position. My mother-in-law wants me to wear Mangal Sutra and saris every day and go to the temples, and I want to go to the beach in a bikini. Like we get stuck, right? But what's deeper? What is she really looking for? Is the love and respect. Can I give her that in different ways? Yes, I can. Right? And so that is win-win. So what are the values of the other people? What do they value? What do they want? Not the position, but what is it underneath that they're looking for? And if I'm able to find that, most often than not, you do find that, and you can create that win-win.
Correct. And you do a no deal on what is on the surface, but then you make a win-win for the values that are there below, right? For you, freedom might be a value, for her caring and love might be a value, and then you find a balance for that. So it becomes a win-win aspect there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is all about creating maybe deeper deals. Is it a deeper deal?
Yeah, deeper connection, I would say, deeper relationship, deeper, caring enough to have that conversation.
Have you met people who have this I have to win and the other person has to lose mentality? And because I see it as a very common thing, right? Like, especially we see it in all our Hindi movies, right? And then he said, this is how we have to be to win.
Right.
How do you go about changing a person who is so hell-bent on a win-lose kind of ideology?
I think that sometimes it's a lot of awareness. Yeah. So nobody wants to be the bad guy. Nobody thinks that they're the bad guys. But when they understand that this is the impact of their actions and their words on other people and how it's affecting their relationships, and it's you can move them towards that. So if I find my conversations with my dad annoying, for example, right? Because he's always telling me what to do and he's giving me advice, and he's like saying do this, do that. He doesn't seem to be proud of what I'm doing. The deeper fear is that he doesn't trust me, he doesn't respect me, he doesn't think I'm smart enough, he doesn't so that's the deeper fear. And so because that's the fear, I'd rather say, no, I'd rather get stuck on my position and say, hey, you're wrong, you're not smart, you're dumb, you don't understand, you're like this, right? And so it's easier to do that because I'm afraid that I'm not being respected. And so when I say, it's okay, he's coming from a place of love, and I really, not just intellectually, really internally feel that, then I can create that relationship with him, right? So it's any of the, none of these mindsets I'm talking about are easy, so don't hear me saying that. But they are simple. They're simple in that I can understand that intellectually, and then when I reflect and I'm aware of my actions and the impact of that, then I can start creating those relationships. And when I believe that it's possible, because a lot of people think that win-win theoretical, but actually doesn't work, right? But it does. It does.
Yeah,
and I understand the other person.
And like you said, it's about respect. A large part of win-win is about respect, because very often we think that we have to be above people, and we think that being above somebody means winning and the other person losing.
Yeah.
But we don't see that actually when we are equals, it's a far bigger win overall. You're opening yourself up to more deals in the future as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't stop the conversation there. Fantastic. So win-win is a mindset that we need to start creating, not just in work, but in every aspect of our life, and start practicing it there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's with everybody, right? It's with my boss.
Wala.
Even with the sabzi wala, right? Absolutely, yeah. If I start bargaining with the sabzi wala poor guy, it's like, am I
every
really
single time?
that?
Oh, yeah, madam, fir se aayi.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. So win-win is the one. What comes next?
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, content strategist Manish Pandey shares useful insights about the creator economy with Varun. On The Longest Constitution, it's an Ambedkar special. Priya tells us about the father of the Indian Constitution. On Shunya 1, Shiladitya asked Mihir Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Teachment, about his dream of changing the Indian education system. On Big Talk About Tiny Humans, Devi Shobha and Meghna share how to navigate the delicate process of LGBTQIA kids coming out to their parents. And on Tere Mere Raste, Kesho takes us to the birthplace of so many great films, Universal Studios. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our other shows for that matter, do please tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. You can check us out on YouTube as well. On ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, we have a list of all of our YouTube channels. Do check out if your favorite show is available as full video. We are also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We'd really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors for this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
So there's commitment.
Mhm.
And commitment is really saying, I will do whatever is required to get the result that I want. It's not I'll try. It's not maybe, probably. It's I will do that. And what gets in the way of doing that are our beliefs. And, our beliefs can be changed. So, there are some beliefs that are easy to change and some beliefs that are hard to change. So if I am, for example, going from my home to my kids' school to drop them, it takes me 40 minutes. And somebody tells me, oh, you know what, there's another way and it'll only take you 20 minutes to do that. I'll immediately change my belief. I'll say, oh, okay, tomorrow onwards, I'm going to go from, take that route. But the one belief that I find people find the hardest to change is the belief that this is who I am. Is that self-identity. It's, whatever those labels that I use to define myself, whether they work for me or they don't work for me, this is who I am. And it gives them the security of, at least I know who I am. And it's almost like it's tied to our survival instincts. Like I need to be this way in order to exist, to survive. And all our programming happens early on when we're kids, right? So psychologists say by the time we're 7, we have all the beliefs in place, and it does start early. So if I'm telling my kid, who's really, let's say he's playing football and falls down, and I say, get up, Kian, you're a brave boy. Stop crying. Don't cry. You're brave. Get up, etc. And I'm teaching him resilience, and I'm teaching him, hey, it's okay. You fall down sometimes. You get up and you continue. I'm teaching him all those skills, but I'm also teaching him it's not okay to cry. It's, you're weak if you show your emotions. And he forms those beliefs that I can't show those emotions, right? And that could lead to toxin masculinity, all of that we talk about today. And but that starts early, right? That starts early. If my parents say, why did you get 99 instead of 100? Who came first? Why didn't you come first? What happened? Next time you better come first, right? Again, they're teaching me excellence, to push for, to push the boundaries, to apply myself, etc. But I'm also learning it's not okay to relax. It's, I'm burning out. I'm can't take a break. I always have to keep pushing. And so those are some of the beliefs I'm forming as well. And so that becomes our image. That this is who I need to be in order to be liked. I can't show emotions. I have to push for excellence. I have to achieve certain things, etc. And that image is our definition of who I am, right? But it's not who I am, because who I am is complex and dynamic, and I can't define it. And the more I define myself, the more I limit myself. Because if I say I'm friendly, that's who I am. Now, it's great. It helps me build relationships with people, but it also gets in my way in that now I can become a pushover. Because, if somebody comes and asks something of me, I can't say no, because then I'm not a friendly person and that's not who I am, right? And so it can limit us. But that's the belief that I feel gets in the way of saying, okay, I will be whoever I need to be to create the results and relationships in my life.
This is so true, because we start putting these labels on ourselves, and these labels are just so sticky. It's
Yeah.
like, the label on a bottle where you can't just seem to peel it off. The glue sticks and it still comes off. And these labels don't allow us to morph into something else. For example, like you said, commitment means I need to be this kind of person to be able to achieve this kind of thing. But if I put this label since my childhood that I'm a confused person, I can't make a decision, etc., then that label is going to stick. And very often, peeling away that label is almost like killing your identity. It's like killing a part of yourself. So getting stuck with this label is one of the most dangerous things that can exist.
Yeah. And it's natural because, people will do that, but understanding that that's what I'm doing, I think that really helps you to go past those labels and go past that image. It's a little bit like saying, I'm a railways person. I only travel by train, versus I want to go to London, so I will, take the train or the plane or the car, or walk, whatever I need to do to get there. So that's the difference. Am I willing to do what's required to get to the result, or am I limiting myself? I can only travel by train because that's who I am.
And so this is something that I started doing, especially as a habit, which was I stopped using the word I am as much as possible. Right? Because as soon as you use I am, it immediately labels you as something. And the lesser you use it, the more you're adaptable to it. And you're like, okay, let me try. Let me try. And I think that let me try is what you meant by a commitment, right? Saying that, okay, I'm now going to do it this way.
Yeah. Really.
This commitment is also seeing something through to the end. It's not just making a commitment.
Right.
So, and I think there's a big gap between making a commitment to actually seeing it through.
Yeah.
What is the process in between? How does a leader go from there to there? Like everyone can say, yeah, I will do it, but actually ending up doing it is something else, right? So how do you guide people through that journey?
I think that involves all these elements that we've talked about. Right? It requires clarity of what you want and why and when. It requires honesty of where you are, and you as you commit to something, you'll start doing things. And sometimes you'll fail, sometimes you'll make mistakes, sometimes you won't achieve the things that you want to. And so, in that, are you saying, okay, then I stop, or I say, okay, I learn from it, right? I learn from it, and then I make further decisions, again do certain things, again some of them will work, some of them won't work, and so on. And so that's what learning is. That's what, I make certain decisions, some will work, some will not work, then again I do that, and I keep doing that. That's how I grow, that's how I learn. But again, if I stop, then that's the end of it.
As soon as you stop, I think this is so critical. This is the last mindset, right? A commitment. And after that comes action. And action ties everything together. You have to do all the things that you have changed your mindset towards, the planning that you've done, and who you are towards it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of your biggest challenges when working with leaders in making them change or adopt these mindsets?
I think that one is openness to feedback, because different people deal with feedback differently. And again, when people see feedback as an attack, then it's very hard to work with them, right? Because then you show them the mirror, but then they're not willing to look at that mirror. And so then what are you doing? You can bring a horse to the pond, but you can't make it drink it, right? So I think that's hard, but that's also not uncommon, right? And that happens because, again, of the fear that I'll be judged. So if I'm giving you feedback, and you take it personally because you're seeing it as a judgment, you're seeing it as an attack. And so part of what we do is also speak about how to take feedback. And we say, hey, feedback is not about you, it's about the effectiveness of your actions or your communication, right? And just like Roger Federer or Nadal, who all the champions, they have coaches who are giving them feedback constantly, not because they're doing something wrong, but because feedback can take their game to the next level, and you want to see feedback in the same way. So I think explaining that and just putting that out there helps create that openness. The other is also fear of being judged, right? So just, if I'm in a group of people and I'm sharing and being vulnerable, what will people say about me? What will they think about me? And so are you willing to be open to feedback, but also are you open to be vulnerable, to share, to say that this is what's getting in my way, this is where I'm not being effective? So I think those are a couple of things that we create in our programs and say, okay, it's okay. Yeah, it's fears out there, but you can get past them.
It's so true, because so many leaders believe that they have to have this strong stoic exterior, right? I'm not emotional, I don't get affected by these things, etc. But actually that vulnerability is what makes you more enduring as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And it puts you in touch with your own emotions. And I think like I said, part of honesty is being in touch with those emotions, being really acknowledging those emotions. And when people don't do that, especially in corporates where people feel it's not professional to acknowledge emotions, right? And it gets in the way. It gets in the way of connecting with people. It gets in the way of building relationships. It gets in the way of empathy, empathetic leaders, etc. So I think it's just so important to be that.
Last question to you. Okay. Do all leaders need to be people?
I think so. But there are people who care about results, right? There are leaders who just like results. Then there are people who only care about people. People are more important. Both are not effective, I would say. If you want to be successful, you've got to have both. You've got to have care about results, and you've got to care about people. And that's what makes you an empathetic leader. Because if you only care about the results, then you're going to lose the people. If you only care about the people, you're going to lose the results. And you don't want either to happen. And so it's really about, I believe in you as people, and am I getting that message across? And I believe in you to produce the results, right? And so as a leader, I think that's a really important skill to have.
Fantastic. I think this balance between the people and your results is so important to get.
Yeah.
Can't lean too much on one side. You have to focus on both of these, because ultimately the leadership and the results is your job. It's what you want in the end, right? Yeah. And the people is an important aspect of getting there. Otherwise, who are you leading? What are you leading? Avantika, I absolutely love this conversation. Thank you for coming on the podcast. How can people get in touch with you? How can people continue this conversation with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is I'm there, and I might, maybe you can put my email ID or something.
Sure. Can you share it? What is your email address?
avantika.sinha@stillwater.co.in.
Perfect. And we'll put it down in the show notes as well of the podcast.
Perfect.
Avantika, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yay.